I want to talk about the Houston Texans a little bit. I mean, they're injured. Yeah, injured. But
just like anybody.
They're 6-3. They still have a favorable record, but that was a team that going into this, I think we all had kind of high in our power rankings. We thought they were a team that could potentially be there at the end for the AFC. They lose Diggs, lose some other players. What are you guys thinking about Houston right now? Are they still as vaunted as you thought coming into the season, or have they lost some luster a little bit? What do you think, Ryan?
Well, they've definitely lost luster. I mean, you got to look at the team and look at the depth on all teams, right? And the next man up, if he's not producing like your starters are, then you really got to consider the play calling and the game planning and stuff like that. And I think we saw that in Thursday nights. Like the Texans, in my opinion, they went into that game not the favorites. Jets were favored by, I believe, 2 going into that game. And it's probably the star-studded Jets roster, and we've all watched that. And there was a chance that we knew the Jets were going to come out. I mean, obviously a much-needed win for them.
Yeah.
But the Texans have had some injuries all year. I mean, they lost their running back for 2-3 weeks due to the hip drop. Mixon was out. Collins has been out for 4 weeks on the IR. Diggs is now out all year. I mean, those are your top 2 receivers and playmakers. I mean, when those guys goes down, it's kind of hard. I mean, we're seeing it with the Niners right now, right? When they're both their receivers out. Yep. It's hard to maintain what you've been practicing all year for.
Well, and that's the thing. I feel I get so bummed for teams like this because, at the beginning of the season when we're doing our power rankings, these are the power rankings or what we think the standings will be or how good this team will be based on if all their players are healthy. If you start losing 5 guys that are key guys on your team, that goes out the window. I mean, I'm not saying it's an asterisk or like a excuse, but it is an excuse. I mean, if they don't have Diggs, Stephon Diggs was having a great season across from Tank Dell, and it stinks. We're going to have a segment later where we talk about some top trade targets. Mm-hmm. And while I was looking at some teams that need them, they were somebody that was glaring. If they could get a wide receiver or something like that to kind of replace him.
I believe Nico's going to be coming back next week, which is a really big target for them. And that's going to basically shape them up from what they were kind of like last year, minus the running game has gotten better with Mixon. But, I mean, we've always said it. People like to say the saying, wide receivers are a dime a dozen in the league. There's so many of them on the field. In reality, you take the top 2 away, they're no longer a dime a dozen, because if they're a dime a dozen, we should be still playing.
No, absolutely. Well. And we talked about this with the Brandon Ayuk thing. You get rid of the number 1, now all of a sudden the number 2 has, I know they're playing the X and the Y and the Z slot position, stuff like that, but you get rid of the number 1, now the number 2 has to be the number 1.